usually I'm blunt, and this evening, my time, I'm not going to mince words. I take it from my mother, 104 years old, that this is the darkest moment that she remembers in the history of Israel since the darkest days of the War of Independence in 1948. The second point is we are already in the midst of a multi-front confrontation, different intensity on different fronts, but we are there. In my family's home village of Metula, the northernmost point of Israel, they are telling everybody who doesn't really have a good reason to stay there to evacuate. The same goes for many, many other villages and kibbutzim and townlets all around the north. And it's my nephew just came from Thailand and went to his brigade in the north. I apologize. If I may have a open disclosure, in the kibbutz, it's called Kfar Aza, where my childhood friends from the youth movement settled many years ago, dozens were killed. 40 babies, not even toddlers, were massacred, many of them beheaded. What we saw there is Einsatzgruppen disguised as Hamas. That's what it was. And this is how most Israelis see it. Now, Israel had enough information to know that there was an attack coming. Probably, I did not establish this yet. Finally, they didn't have the 0 hour. Just like on the eve of the 1973 war, but they knew and they saw the preparations. And again, like 1973, we have two, what somebody calls peacock generals at military intelligence who knew better, who decided that our policy since 2009 of getting along with Hamas through economic benefits and the occasional round of fighting, etc., is working. They said, no, she'll be fine, mate. And what happened was that the fence around Gaza, 70 kilometers, it's not, in parts, it's just a fence, in parts, it's a wall, was unguarded by the Gaza division, the Firefox divisions. So when you try to defend 70 kilometers with 3 companies, it's not going to work. And of course it didn't. There was one place which gives an example of how it should have developed. In one of the now scorched earth, beautiful, blossoming region of Israel, what we call the Gaza envelope, 22, 23 kibbutzim and villages, which are now destroyed and burned down. Only one remains almost intact because they had a young lady heading the only one, the local security squad, and she understood before anybody else in the army what was going on. She had their alert squad spread around the perimeter, and prevented the Hamas killers from coming into the kibbutz and doing what they did in Kfar Aza, in Be'eri, going from house to house, just butchering people. That's the sin. And this is why my mother is saying what she said. Even in the War of Independence, we never had any sin like this. Second thing, why were the intelligence chiefs so wrong? Because since 2009, they came to believe it works. We allow Gazan workers to come to Israel. We provide fuel and Qatari money and etc. And they were married to this, again, 73 conceptions. So when the Hamas, facing Israeli technological superiority, undoubtful, came over the fence with motorized gliders and tractors, etc., there was nobody to stop them. And the distance between the fence and the 22, 23 kibbutzim and 11 army positions is very short. It was not just 2 battalion commandos of Hamas that crossed, probably the only 2 battalion commandos they have. There were many Gazans coming to plunder. And on the way, they took with them some hostages. That's the scene, and it took hours to intervene. We had girl soldiers there, manning the positions that watch monitor the cameras and the sensors along the fence. At least 2 dozens of them were butchered in their position because there was no buffer. That's something which is very difficult for any Israeli to accept and understand. Now, less emotional. I beg everybody's pardon. I believe, and I don't have the proof yet, I will have it. This was orchestrated by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards through the visits of the Quds Force Commander, General Ismail Khani, to Beirut and Damascus, and their visits to Tehran, etc., in order to derail progress towards an Israeli-Saudi normalization. The Iranians perceive a move in this direction as a direct, serious threat. They did not want to take it. Now, Hamas, I've known Yahya Sinwar since his days in prison. I used to have a lot of the leader of Hamas in Gaza. Many conversations with him in prison. Sinwar didn't want to have a fight in Israel on his own. So my assumption, I will have evidence later on, I'm sure, was the Iranians and Hezbollah were saying to him, through the people they were talking to in Beirut, in case the knife is on your throat, in case the Israeli army invades Gaza forcefully, there will be the activation, the ignition of a Lebanese front, and to a lesser extent, a Syrian front, because we see the movements there that they are getting ready to send rockets there, probably try to have rockets already. on the Lebanese front, we have every day rockets, today 15. We have attempts of Squad to penetrate into Israel. It's an active front. What is Israel doing? I think what they are doing now is they're trying to get the forces ready for an eventual major advance into the Gaza Strip. They have to decide on how to do it. They have plans. When to do it. But in my opinion, no hurry. We better prepare the ground, and the Air Force is doing it. The Air Force is doing it. Let them do their job. When you enter, you have to minimize the capability of Hamas to resist. About the hostages, one, nobody knows the number. Neither Israel, I think even Hamas doesn't know. They have threatened to execute hostages in return for Israeli bombing. Today, I was carefully checking throughout the day, it's evening in Israel. The Air Force continued the raids on Hamas targets in Gaza and other places. I didn't hear anything else coming from Hamas about that, but it's a real serious possibility. I would end up by saying that we have entered this confrontation in a situation where we had a government and mainly a prime minister who is discredited, who's not trusted by, I would say, more than half the population. And now, 4 days after this horrible massacre, he still can't make up his mind about forming an emergency war cabinet with the opposition. Because some hooligan like Mr. Ben-Gvir, whom he appointed as Minister of National Security, wants to be in that cabinet. And the opposition leaders, rightly so, say, no, we don't need this guy. So it's 4 days. We don't have a war cabinet that is a signal of unity, of concentrated national effort, and people are wondering. I'll finish by saying one thing. What I saw in my family, in many others, was many international flights to Israel are canceled. But you should have seen the flight coming in from Bangkok last night. It was all, not just my young nephews, it was all young Israelis coming to their reserve units, going up north, going down south, etc. If they built on the division within Israel and the political turmoil that Bibi has created, I think they are going to be proven wrong. Thank you.